I'd like to call this meeting of the Northwest Local School District Board of Education to order. Chris, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Mrs. Detzel?
Here.
Mr. Harlow?
Here.
Mr. Heather?
Here.
And Mr. Unger?
Here. I'd like to invite two of our student guests in the audience, Keegan and Kata, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can sit back down. Our next item is the approval of minutes. Dr. Jackson?
Yes, the first set is from the regular meeting from November 17th. The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the minutes as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is approval of minutes from a special meeting.
Yes, this is from the special meeting. It says November 18th, but I think they meant December. Is that correct?
December 8th.
Yes. So the treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the minutes as listed.
It was November 18th.
Was it November 18th? Oh, I'm sorry, yes, okay, yes. The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the minutes as listed.
You have to abstain.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just want to make a note, Dan, I'll be abstaining because I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call for a vote. Motion carries 4-0. Our next item is a special recognition. Pauletta?
Yes, this evening we have with us one of our All-State athletes from Colerain High School, so we are very pleased and honored to be able to introduce her to you this evening. So without further ado, we would like one of her coaches, Mrs. Sarah Chisholm, to come forward and sing her accolades.
Hannah is the type of athlete coaches dream of having on their teams. She's driven, passionate, and willing to put her whole self on the line on a daily basis to reach her goals. Quotes like, "One must aim high in order to hit high, and to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift," give the perfect description of Hannah's attitude. Hannah is the ultimate combination of classroom smarts and athletic ability. She has been successful both on and off the course and will be an excellent addition to NKU. Hannah has many accomplishments as a Colerain cross-country runner. She has earned 4 varsity letters, 4 scholar athletes, 1 time second team all-conference, 3 times first team all-conference, 3 times academic all-conference, 3 times all-district, 3 times all-city, and 1 time all-region. Hannah put her final stamp on her cross-country career last month with a 24th place finish at state, which earned her all-state honors and academic all-state honors. Hannah can add her name to the list as the 13th girl in Colerain High School history to earn this honor in girls cross country, which has a rich tradition.
Sure. Congratulations to you. A lot of hard work goes to get to that point.
Hannah, who did you bring with you this evening?
My mom and dad.
Would you like to introduce them to us?
That's my mom, Denise Tobler, and that's my dad, Jack Tobler.
I'm going to ask if Jim Detzel would, Andrew, I'd like to have Jim join you in the picture because Jim spent a lot of time with the track team, and I'm sure he'd be glad to.
Come out here in front.
I just don't want to go up there with these things.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, one more, just for good measure, nice smile. Thank you.
And we're looking forward to seeing you back here after track season.
And I'm going to take Hannah off her photo.
And once again, congratulations. Our next item is a legislative update by Mr. Harlow.
Yes, the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate were very busy during the lame duck session, and a couple minor things have passed relating to education, but I think the real action is going to be in the budget bill in the next General Assembly. So that will be chock full of all kinds of educational provisions, some of which maybe passed one chamber and not the other and didn't get reconciled in time in this General Assembly. So we'll keep watching.
Lame duck session is always exciting,
Yes.
Mr. Harlow. Thank you very much. Our next item is the Student Achievement Liaison Report.
And I'm going to introduce Mrs., oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to introduce Mrs. Pam Detzel.
Nice cover there, Andrew. We are very excited tonight because we have some guests that presented and represented us, our school district, and did a fine job up at Columbus, Ohio. So we would like to introduce our two students from Weigel and their principal. This is Lori Reilly.
I've been instructed that Mrs. Reilly is not coming up. I'm Mrs. Hines. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Weigel. And these are two of the 3 students that accompanied us to Columbus on our fun-filled day. And this is Keegan Woostrick and this is Kata Ryan. And they're going to tell you a little bit about our experience in Columbus. Which one do you want? Doesn't matter.
In class, we use learning goals and we use our learning goals. We take assessments and then we rate ourselves on the scale. And our beginning scale score is usually not here, but throughout the topic we try to raise our scores and eventually get to a 3 or a 4. Kata will now show you her data.
So this is my data, and this is on text features, and this is our scale for text features. And when we started off with text features, I thought I won because I know the difference between nonfiction and fiction, but I cannot name any text features. And I can improve my score by working on learning most of the text features. And then on 923, I thought I was a 3 because I know the difference between nonfiction and nonfiction, and I know about 10 text features. And then this is the evidence to show that I know about 10 text features. And then on 926, I still thought I was 3 because I can tell the difference between fiction and nonfiction text, and I can list 10 text features. And then I can improve my score by working on learning all the text features. And then that was this evidence. And then on 10.3, I thought I was a 4 because I can tell the difference between fiction and nonfiction text, and I know all the text features. I still need to work on the following in order to meet the learning target. I can tell all the text features and higher grade levels. And then this was my evidence to show that I was a 4 because I got all these right. And that was my learning scale from this year. And then last year, I had this learning scale. And we're not doing this learning scale no more because we just showed what data we had and not explained why we were at that level or and we didn't explain how we got to that level. So that's why we had more writing and explained how we got to that level. And then at Northwest, we measure our success, and we would give these in Columbus.
Hello, I'm Kristen Bonner, and I'm also a 5th grade teacher at Weigel Elementary, and I've had the pleasure of teaching both of these students in both 4th and 5th grade. So for me, it really came full circle this year when they asked us to start doing more of the writing and explanation about the scales and what the students learned at first. It was terrifying, but after being in Columbus and spending time in the classroom this year, it's so rewarding in Columbus, these kiddos were so willing and able to talk about their data and explain it, as you saw here tonight. They were just grabbing people as they were walking by, perfect strangers. Hey, can I tell you about my data? Hey, come over, look at what I'm learning. So there's evidence and a lot of reward in the success that we're seeing in our students being able to communicate their learning rather than just simply graphing it bar graph style. So we're experiencing the success, and we're very proud to be a part of it with all of these kids at Weigel. Thank you.
For those of you, if you're not familiar, once a year, the Ohio School Board Association has their Capital Conference in Columbus, and they have what's called a Student Achievement Fair, and you have to submit, schools submit their ideas, and only certain ones make it to be presented, and we were well represented by Weigel, and the kids did such a really, really good job. It is so neat for me to walk through and the kids be there. And those of you that come all the time, you hear me say this every year, when it's a Student Achievement Fair and it's just the teachers there and not the kids, it's just not the same thing for me. So both of them did such a good job explaining and showing you could tell their enthusiasm and their honesty on why they graded themselves a certain way. So it was really, really special. And then that same day, the show cards actually were picked to perform. So we were represented by both, and that was just awesome. So I want to thank you both again. And Caden, you have beautiful handwriting, by the way, too. So
I just want to reiterate what a lot of what Pam said, because I was able to go to the Student Achievement Fair this year at the Capitol Conference I walked through, and I know, Kata, you did a great job walking me through your entire portfolio. That was one of the first places I went when the Achievement Fair opened. And just to see our school be in the same classes of having this achievement presented and being on stage with, so to speak, with so many other districts around the state of Ohio. There's 600 school districts in Ohio. There's probably about 3,500 or so schools in the state of Ohio, and to be in the Student Achievement Fair where there's probably no more than 120 is really something.
And just wanted to say, looking at our two ambassadors from Northwest up to Columbus, what fine young people we have in these two. It just really makes me proud to see two such clean-cut, articulate, bright kids representing Ann Weigel in the Northwest School District, and I thank you.
Good time for all these nice comments with Christmas just 9 days away. I hope Santa heard all that.
We notified Santa Claus.
Well, congratulations to both of you, and thank you for coming out to spend some time with us this evening.
Okay, I would like to take our student ambassadors out to the hall for a photo.
I'll wait a moment and then we'll move on to our next item. And our next item is our Butler Tech update. Mr. Detzel?
Yeah, two quick things, Dan. We had, at our last meeting, had an update on our bioscience building. Those of you that don't know, there's a bioscience building that's being built at I-75 and Cincinnati-Dayton Road and will be open in June of 15. Ready for school, and the building is continuing on, and we are on track, on time. And then one other thing, we had a presentation, one of the science classes, there was an old greenhouse over at DRL, and they hadn't been used in about 10 years, and they rehabbed it, fixed it all up, and now the culinary school uses the greenhouse for all their vegetables, lettuce, and then they're going to be raising fish. So they'll be able to cook fish right there on the site, raise them, and it was a really neat presentation. And that's it, Dan.
Thank you very much, Jim. Our next item is a special report, Dr. Jackson.
My turn to introduce.
Sure.
I'll introduce Mrs. Lori Reilly, Weigel Principal, who's going to give her building improvement plan report.
Here we go. Good evening, everyone. I'm here today to talk about our mentoring program here at Weigel. There are so many great things that I think we do at Weigel, but I wanted to try to pick out something that maybe you haven't already heard before, or maybe that is unique to our building and you don't see in some of the other buildings. And I believe that is our mentoring program. We realize at Weigel we have a highly qualified staff. We have plenty of resources. We have our Marzano framework of instruction already in place. We use the TBT process, we analyze our data, and we use research-based interventions, just to name a few things. But one thing that we also realize is that all of this means nothing without the relationships with our students. And that is something that over the past few years we've really come to notice, that the relationship piece with some of our students is missing. So, when we developed our building improvement plan, I went to our district improvement plan and goal 2, which is the culture and climate piece. And this says the Northwest Local School District will provide an environment in which all students are educated in learning environments that are safe, drug-free, and conducive to learning. The district will provide resources and strategies that are designed to reduce suspension and expulsion rates and engage the entire school community in the educational process. So from that district goal, I looked specifically at strategy 2A, implementing and monitoring a system of academic and behavior supports for all students. And the one that I have highlighted in blue is the one that I'm here to talk about. We have a variety of action steps, but one of the things that I'm really proud of is us identifying at-risk students and providing support or mentoring to improve behavior and increase academic performance. Why a mentoring program? We've noticed the past few years that the needs of our students at Weigel have drastically changed than what we're used to. And we need to come up with some way to kind of address those needs. I noticed that there was an increase in number of suspensions. That might be because we changed to a 3-5 building, but it might not. We noticed that we had many students that were struggling at knowing the expectation in our buildings. Some of these were students that have been in our building for a while. Others were students that were new to the Northwest Local School District and just didn't know how we did things at Weigel. In meeting with students for disciplinary reasons, more than one student had voiced that they felt like they had no one in our building that they could count on or turn to, and no one they could confide or trust. They felt like everyone was against them and everyone was only there to see the negative in what they were doing. And we realized as a staff that the students need to know that you care about them. So our plan was actually very simple. We started last year with this plan. Pair students up with a staff member who does not have them in class. We thought that was a key component. We did not want this to be any teacher that they come across on a daily basis, because that puts them in a situation where they may have to have disciplinary actions taken. So we paired them up with someone who doesn't have them in class. Involving the parents was a big piece. We wanted the parents to know that we recognized that their child was struggling in an area. We wanted to partner with those parents to try to help provide some support. Those mentors formed a relationship with students. We asked them to talk to them and provide guidance in their area of struggle. So one thing we did is those mentors talked to the teachers, communicated to parents, asked the teachers, what is it that this child is struggling with that I can help them here at school? Talk to the parents, what are your concerns for your child at school and that you'd like me to kind of help with? We asked the mentors to touch base daily. Some students require that little pep talk each morning or that daily check-in, hey, don't forget, are you organized? Do you have your homework? Others just needed a smile or a nod or a, gosh, you look awfully pretty today. These mentors, their sole purpose was to listen, be there, and celebrate the success of these students, no matter how small it was. It was to find a reason to celebrate something and do that. And, of course, show them that you care. Okay, so, back up, I went way too fast. Okay, so last year, 2013 and 14, we identified 14 students. The identification process was not a complicated one. I simply took my discipline records from the year before. I kind of picked out some of my heavy hitters, along with some recommendations that I received from Struble of some students that may struggle transitioning from Struble to Weigel. And we came up with 14 names. Of the 14, the first year, they focused on behavior, peer relationships, work completion, and anger. Those seem to be the main areas that we worked on with these students. And these were the results. Of those 14 students, 50% of the students that received mentoring reduced their number of office referrals. The days of suspension for these 14 students from one year to the next decreased by 28%. And probably the biggest thing that we were excited about, we actually had 2 students who the previous year, each of them had 8 office referrals and had 3 days of suspension each. They actually went down to no office referrals at all for an entire year. So we thought that was just a huge example of the success that we were having. So this year we decided to continue and kind of improve the program a little bit more. We currently have 20 students identified. And I will say that I have to give props to our classified staff. Sometimes it's very difficult for our certified staff to be a mentor because they have so many obligations in the classroom. And it's not as easy for them to slip out of the classroom and go see a kid. But our classified staff has definitely stepped up. Many of them wanting to do more than just one student. As a matter of fact, we actually have a list of teachers that are waiting for any new students that we identify or that we feel could benefit from this mentoring. So in addition to some of the areas that we worked on last year, we're also working on areas like attendance. We have a student with some anxiety issues that we're also helping her with, organization, and just adjusting to a new school. We have students, like I said, who are coming from an outside district, but then we also have students that are new to our country and that are just struggling with what in the world an American school looks like and what the expectations are. So we are able to kind of meet their needs as well. So far this year, of the 7 returning students that have been in the mentoring process, those 7 have a decrease in office referrals by 47%. And the number of suspensions for these 7 students last year was 7 days collectively, and so far this year it is only 1. So we're really excited about the progress that we're making. We think that this program just continues to have the potential to grow and involve more students in more areas and be a little bit more specific. Our hope this year is to kind of start looking at the academics as well and tie that in. Right now the program focuses a lot on the behavior part of it. But we also want to make sure that we are celebrating the academics and tracking that as well to see if the academics improve. So, you know, I kind of come up with the plan, but I've got to give kudos to my staff because they're the ones who implement it. I do not mentor a child. They're the ones out there touching base. They're the ones buying breakfast for them and sneaking away to a little corner, just the 2 or 3 of them, and asking them how their day was and listening to their stories. And like I said, complimenting them and really making them feel good about themselves. And I think our data shows that that does make a huge difference. That is it. Any questions?
Lori, I just think it's an awesome program, and I hope maybe some of our other schools will snag on to the idea.
It's a very simple one.
Exactly. And
doesn't cost a lot.
No.
Just a little time.
And look, and the results already are amazing. It just goes to show you, sometimes it's just that extra little bit of attention that the kids need.
I fully believe if kids know you care about them, they will do anything for you.
Absolutely.
Their homework, work hard in class, anything you ask of them, but they have to know you care.
Right.
It seems like you're able to stop some of the destructive or disruptive behaviors early, which probably helps them all the way through school if you can get to these kids a little earlier in life.
It's a powerful thing when a student is struggling maybe with an anger issue and they stop and they say, can I go talk to so-and-so who happens to be their mentor? Like they can catch themselves and say, I know if I go talk to her or if I go talk to him, they can talk me down and give me some encouraging words. So that's a pretty powerful thing that we've kind of given those students that tool.
I think the big piece too is the fact the mentors, like you said, are someone that isn't a teacher of theirs. I think that's huge.
And I always make sure the staff knows there's no obligation to do this because I want them to do it for the right reasons.
Exactly.
Not because I'm asking, but I want them to really take a vested interest in these students.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think you might have something else for the Student Achievement Fair next year, it looks like.
Seriously.
Well, Thank you very much for a great presentation. Our next item is report from employee organizations. If there's anyone here from the certificated and licensed employee group that would like to speak? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the classified employees. If there's anyone here from the classified employee group that would like to speak? Seeing no one, we will move on to report from school-related organizations. Is there someone here from a school-related organization that would like to speak? Seeing no one, we will move on to community comments. Prior to the meeting, I had invited anyone that wanted to speak to fill out a yellow card. Did we end up with any, Chris or Larry?
No, sir.
Could you bring that forward, sir? Teetsort. And Matt Teetsort is here to speak about transportation and graduation requirements and AQT team.
Right. Okay. Yes, thank you. And first thing I wanted to bring up was on the transportation RFP that you guys put out a while back that I guess the bids are going to start coming in. My opinion on that is, I mean, it's pretty certain there's going to be some kind of savings involved when it comes back. Is how do you quantify the benefits of keeping transportation in-house as opposed to contracting out, the benefit of having employees that are drivers of the Northwest School District instead of being contract drivers, and how do you put a dollar number on that? And that's just what to consider when the bids do come in. If the bids come in and we're talking millions and millions of dollars per year, and it's kind of a no-brainer, then it's a matter of who is the best, not the lowest bid, but the best bid for the district. But if it's a minimal savings, is that minimal savings, and I'm saying per year, is that minimal savings worth giving up the control of keeping the drivers in-house? That's just what I had to say on that, I believe. And on the graduation requirements, which you guys are voting on tonight, I just want to say I do like mainly the grading scale. I want to say I like the changes in the grading scale. And talking with my son, who's a senior, and he liked them too, because the way they are now, like for example, honors AP is weighted at a 6, both of them. AP classes are a 6, honors are a 6, advanced is a 5, general is a 4, and then it trickles on down based on grade. But with the new one, AP is a 5, whereas honors is a 4.5, and then the general is a 4. So it gives that AP class, which is a step up from the honors, more of a weight than the AP, more of a weight than the honors did before. The other change is nice too is the summa cum laude, because you could have a student that's graduating right now that can have one out of this world GPA, and 1 quarter in the 8th grade, 1 quarter in the 8th grade, the high school credit class, obtain a C, and that knocks that person out of summa cum laude. And that person could be like the top 5 in your class, but that person had a C in the 8th grade, 1 quarter, and that's knocks you out of summa cum laude right now. But with the changes, it's no quarter grade below a C. So you could have a C in a quarter, but then still obtain the weighted GPA of 4.4 and the other minimum requirements of 21 to maintain a summa cum laude. I mean, if a person's going to achieve a bunch of C's, then they're not going to have a 4.4. Sure. So that's another nice change. And the other thing I wanted to mention was my son is on the at Colerain on the AQT team. So I didn't really know much about it until this year, but I'm finding out more. And just for your information, the past couple years, they haven't done that well. I do know, it's like 10 years ago, they were GMC champs at Colerain, but they started off this season 3-1. So they're looking really promising this year. And I actually went to the meet last week at the high school where they split the match with Fairfield. And it was neat. It was interesting. So, and it's just wild that academic quiz team is a pretty big deal. As far as, it's a varsity letter sport, winter sport. The ones that are in it, they're in it. And other students are coming in and cheering them on and everything. So,
That's awesome.
just hopefully we'll hear more about them in the next coming weeks. And they'll keep winning.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing on the transportation is transportation. Will there be a savings in relation to the buildings, the changes? Like, because with the streamlining the buildings, building new buildings, so like 6 years down the road, our transportation network will be set up a lot different than it is today. So that would also account to a savings in transportation too, wouldn't it?
Sure. That certainly is the big question, and we're just trying to do our
Right.
due
So that's
diligence
what I'm
and
saying. Yeah.
get as much information as possible.
And I do realize,
So-
it's, timing and everything, you have to act fiscally responsible, whatever we ask for in May, be it bond or, levy issue, what have you, because you have to, act on for us as parents, us as students, and also the constituents that are going to vote in May. So they don't want to see you choosing, bypassing, if you can save $3 million a year in transportation, you choose not to, and then ask for money in May. That's
There's certainly a lot of things to consider,
Right,
and
to think
we're just
about,
trying to
so.
get as much information as we can. So
Right.
I appreciate your comments, sir.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Lots of good positive things. Thank you. All right, this would be the only yellow card I had, so we will go ahead and go on to the next part of the meeting, which will be a fiscal item, Dr. Jackson.
Yeah, we have several items
Yes,
from the
now.
treasurer. Larry, do you have anything to explain on these, or are we good to?
No comments.
Okay. The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the financial reports as listed.
So moved.
Second. The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call for a vote. The motion is approved, 5-0. Our next item is a certificated and licensed personnel item, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, we have one certificated resignation, 2 tutor resignations, 1 home instructor procedural resignation. We have 1 substitute teacher procedural resignation, 8 extra duty procedural resignations, and 1 athletic event worker procedural resignation. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated license personnel retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a classified personnel item, Dr. Jackson.
So we have 3 classified resignations, 2 preschool extended day assistant procedural resignations, and 6 classified substitute procedural resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would just like to make my weekly reminder that our agendas are posted electronically, typically the Friday before our Monday meeting, so the board has already had a chance to review all this, and I would invite people in the audience and at home to get on our electronic school board site and view these agendas before the meeting. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a fiscal item, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, this is a continuation of our discussion from last week where the board discussed moving forward with Plan A1 and approximately just shy of $85 million in new buildings and renovations. So the new total is $84,986,558 when we remove the Houston renovations from Plan A1. So this is the first resolution that the board needs to pass to move forward. Larry, do you have anything you want to describe with this resolution?
Just basically, this is the first of a series of resolutions the board will have to pass. Basically, one is a prerequisite for the next in order to get to the combined bond issue operating levy in May. We will file with this resolution just some demographic information about the district and then the schedule of indebtedness. The calculation shows that if we pass an $85 million bond issue, I rounded up, that debt plus the existing debt, the debt threshold will be just over 7% of the assessed valuation for the district, which is below the 9% cap in statute. So I would recommend passage of the resolution.
So the treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the resolution to exceed 4% limitation as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Dan, I just wanted to remind the folks, I think people here probably are aware of this, but with what we agreed on with the A1 plan last week, taxes with the renewal, it's not really going to be called a renewal, but in effect it is a renewal. I mean, we're going back to the voters. Will be less, albeit not that much, but might be able to take your family out for a pizza or something. But it's very rare in this time and day that you actually have a governing board that can levy taxes, ask for less versus more. And that's something I'm very proud of. And it is a good time to be borrowing money with low interest rates. And I'm not aware, Dan, of any board ever coming back asking for less, but it probably has happened somewhere. But I think this is a win-win for everybody.
I think we're all pleased we're able to do this within or less than the existing tax rates. And it's the hard work of the board and the administration that we have the cash surplus that we have at this time. And someday, somehow, our buildings are going to get updated, and I think the time is right now. So especially since we can do this within existing rates. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, please call for a vote, Chris. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a certificated licensed personnel item. Dr. Jackson.
We have one initial appointment, one substitute teacher, 2 home instructors, 9 extra duty contracts, 2 athletic event workers, and a resolution to hire 5 non-licensed coaches. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved. Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a classified personnel item, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, it is listed are 6 initial appointments, but that needs to be reduced down to 5. The first line is Donna Bevins. She will not be hired this evening. 2 preschool extended day assistants, 6 classified substitutes, 4 changes in status, and 1 leave of absence. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? And we don't have to change the agenda to pull that name off. We've kind of done that
Take care
right
of that
now.
in minutes,
Okay.
yes.
Just so everybody's clear that name was pulled off. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Next item is another classified personnel item, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, this is a resolution to terminate an employee. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the resolution as listed.
So moved. Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call for a vote. Motion carries 5-0. Curriculum and instruction item, Dr. Jackson.
And this is the policy IKF that was presented at the last meeting by Mr. Holbrook. So the curriculum, or the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the graduation requirements policy IKF as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chris, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is the 2015-16 district calendar.
Yes, we have the 15-16 district calendar to be approved. The past couple of years, we've tried to approve this in December so we can get the first day of school on the books, because there's some folks that have to get their vacation days in January for the upcoming year. So this is pretty much identical to the current calendar. There's only one difference. Instead of starting with teachers on a Friday, Monday, teachers are going to start on a Thursday, Friday, August 20th and 21st. And then our last day of school for students will be on June 2nd, with the Teachers' Day on June 3rd. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the 2015-2016 school calendar item as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Dan. Andrew, I had brought this up last year. I believe that graduation is the same night for the regional track meet up in Dayton. What is the actual graduation date?
For this coming,
Yes.
I'd have to look at my calendar.
And this is the second time this has happened in the last 4 years. Any kid should not have to choose if they're qualifying for that regional track meet to pick between that and coming to graduation. So is there any way that we can make sure that that does not happen, because it's happening this year?
I actually don't see graduation.
Yeah, it's not on the board-approved calendar. The issue
Well,
is...
I know, I just found out that it's going to be, because I had a student that possibly that may be qualifying, obviously we don't know now, but,
Right.
It's a good shot.
I can see what we can do about this year. It's going to be difficult to move it, but I can certainly
Well, no,
look into it.
I just want that to be up there, that these kids shouldn't have to choose to compete at this meet.
The issue is reserving Millette Hall. That's the issue, is that they put you in a certain order, and then when it's your turn to pick, you got to pick a date that works and a time and all that. But we can do a better job of trying to coordinate that and keeping it off of potential track meets, state track meets.
And it's always the same.
What day is it?
Wednesday, Friday every year.
Okay.
Up in Dayton.
We've had this issue over the last, quite a few times over
Okay.
the last 17 years.
All right. With no other discussion, Chris, please call for a vote. Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a general business item, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, we have some representatives from Colerain Township and Kroger's that are going to present a proposed TIF agreement. Turn it over to Jim Rowan. Looks like he's coming up.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Jackson. Ms. Rita Williams is going to be passing along a disc here so we can bring up a presentation. We have a group of individuals here this evening to talk a little bit about the proposed Kroger development. We have representatives from Kroger, Ms. Rita Williams, Christy Snelling, and then from the development group of Vanderkar, we have Rob Smyjunas and Steve Dragon. The township's really excited about this project. It's been in conversations for at least the last 12 to 15 months, trying to work on the assemblage of properties to make it feasible. We've been in conversations offline with the school district for probably the past 3 to 4 months, and talking about how to put together a partnership between the township, the school, and the developer. And that's what Kroger is here this evening to talk with you a little bit about what this project looks like and the proposed partnership between the various parties. So I'd be glad to answer any questions following the presentation. I know that anytime you deal with development and the vacation of property, there's always concern about what happens to the residual property, and I can give you some information with regards to what our plans are to market that property into a viable business in the future. So with that, I'd like to bring Rita forward and her team to kind of give you an overview of the project.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to use this board as my
I see you're having a little technical problem. I always like being in front of a televised meeting and having the computer go bad on you. It'll show us how good you really are, so.
Let's see how this. Is it, where does it go? This way. Okay. Okay, let's see how. Okay. Well, zoom in. Yes, yes. Scroll down. Okay. Great. Let's see if that works. Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody, for allowing us to be here. Today I have with me Christy Snelling, who is with Kroger. She is in our real estate department, and Rob Smudgeris and Steve Dragon with Van de Karp for the developers. My name is Rita Williams, and I'm with the Kroger Company, and I am in charge of all the economic incentives for all the Kroger stores. And so today we want to talk to you about one of the developments we'd like to look at here in Colerain Township. Like Jim mentioned before, we have been in discussions over the last several months and would like to talk to you a little bit about development, the job creation, and looking to partnership with the community, and talk to you a little bit about the tax increment financing. And throughout this whole presentation, if you do have any questions, please feel free to stop me. We're going to talk a little bit about what the proposed store is and where it's going to be located, and various factors relating to that. Okay, just a little bit about, I think Kroger is not a stranger to many of the folks here. So like I said, I represent Kroger, all the economic incentives. A little bit about Kroger. We have many store formats. We have our signature store formats, which are the smaller stores, and we also have our marketplace stores. What we're proposing to do here in Colerain is to put a marketplace store, and we can talk to you a little bit about what that includes and what type of items will be located in the marketplace store and how that will look for the Kroger Company. Again, a little about Kroger. These are some of the stores, banners that we have, and we operate over in 35 different states, and we have over 25 different banners, so you can go coast to coast and see a little bit about our company. Okay, so a little bit of the history here in Colerain. We are a partner here in Colerain. We have a long-term relationship here. We've been here for over 40 years. Our goal here is to keep our store performing and to service our customers, which are you, our customers here. So with that, we look at each store location, and we look to develop and enhance each store location. Look at opportunities how we can grow within the community. We also look to partner with the community. As part of our partnership with the community of Colerain and with the school board, with the Township School Board, we have our community Kroger Awards, and that is on your Kroger card. When you scan that and you purchase so many groceries, that goes back to the school. And that over the past 3 years, we have partnered with the school district, with the PTA, for over $20,000 of rewards for the purchases of the parents of the school children. We've also have our sponsorship with the school board with the boosters. We increased that sponsorship this year, and it's $5,000 annually.
Rita, do you guys do anything with Northwest High School? I see you just have Colerain High School listed there.
We also do something with Northwest High School. Okay. Yes, we do the same partnership with all the high schools. I want to talk to you today about the Colerain. Gotcha. And I can get you that information.
So Northwest, you give $5,000 to a year for their boosters as well?
That I need to confirm.
We need to confirm
Yeah,
that.
yeah, how much we give to the boosters. But with the community rewards, we do that with all the schools. We partner with all the schools. And the amount that the community reward, again, it varies by school district, but that's about your average.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the project overview, and Steve, did you want to?
Yeah, I guess I'll have to stand. My name is Steve Dragon. I'm with Vanderkar Holdings. We're the developer for the project. Vanderkar is a commercial real estate development company located here in Cincinnati. We've been assisting Kroger, working with the township to identify a site and to assemble property and help them to find a location to expand their store in Colerain Township. The existing store is a 68,000 square foot store that's at the east side of Colerain and just south of Springdale Road. It's become quite undersized to service the trade area, and Kroger's been looking for an opportunity to expand to a marketplace format for quite a while now. Expansion at the existing site isn't possible, no feasible way to do it, and the only real opportunity to develop a marketplace in this part of town is through the assembly we put together here, the proposed project, which lies to the north of Colerain, to the north of Springdale Road and west of Colerain. Here's an aerial photograph of the area of Colerain Avenue and Springdale Road. The south of this image is Northgate Mall. Lying to the east on the other side of Colerain is the existing Kroger location, and the proposed marketplace location is immediately north of the mall, the white overlay area showing the marketplace and the Kroger Fuel Center that we're proposing to develop there on that property. The proposed project consists of a 124,000 square foot, just the image up here, 124,000 square foot Kroger marketplace with Kroger Fuel Center. The property assemblage includes a number of existing residential properties and as well as commercial properties. And the site totals about 14.5 acres.
Steve, how many houses are you guys?
There are 12 houses.
12 houses, and
That's
then
right.
the commercial, was it a Goodyear or something that's back there in a Fifth Third Bank?
There's Fifth Third, the former
Is that Fifth
McDonald's
Third Bank going
outlet.
to stay there, or is that moving? Where that
The
Fifth
plan
Third-
is to incorporate that in with the marketplace.
Oh, so into, okay. into
Yeah,
the Kroger building.
the existing branch would be demolished to make way for the marketplace store.
Would the branch then go inside the marketplace?
That's right, yeah. In fact, there are drive-throughs for both bank and pharmacy proposed on the right side of the building as you look at from Springdale Avenue there. So that would serve both the Fifth Third Bank branch that'd be internal to the marketplace as well as the full pharmacy.
Have you talked to the owners of those 12 houses? Have you guys made them offers yet, or?
Those are all under contract, yes.
So so everybody's on board to sell them?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, as well as commercial properties.
Gotcha.
As you can imagine, the site's been very challenging and expensive to assemble, given the number of property owners and existing homes and commercial, operating commercial businesses. But it's really the only opportunity to put a marketplace of this, a full-size marketplace of this type in this part of the township. And so we're very grateful to the township's administration staff for working with us and Kroger over the last 15 months to come up with a viable project here in this location. We've spent a significant amount of time working with both them and the Kroger folks to create a plan that can accommodate a full-size Kroger on the site, as well as address a number of the concerns that have been expressed from the township and the residents, and dealing with things like access and circulation and impact to the surrounding uses and properties. As you can see, the store faces south onto Springdale. The main entrance is aligned with a signalized entrance at the mall, and the fuel center lies close to that main entrance. The store itself will be a very attractive Kroger Marketplace buildings, primarily a brick masonry construction with IFAS and architectural metal elements and features. And the fuel center Fuel Center will include some architectural upgrades above the Kroger standard Fuel Center design, including masonry piers and masonry sales kiosk. The store will have the store will have many of the amenities that you might be familiar with if you've visited any of the marketplaces already in business around the region, including expanded fresh food departments, including bakery, deli, produce, meat, and seafood departments. The site itself will be very attractively landscaped, with a particular focus on buffering the residences to the west of the project and also creating a more attractive streetscape than there currently is there along Springdale Road, with adding green space and a significant amount of landscaping in that streetscape area. We're confident that we've got a plan that's well designed, that mitigates any of the negative impacts to the surrounding properties, and will protect and enhance the property values in the area for the long term. We believe it's a great project, and we're excited to bring it to the community. We think it'll be a first-class amenity for the township's residents, and welcome any questions you might have regarding the project itself.
Okay, I'll just start here. This marketplace concept, I mean, pretty familiar with, I've lived here 15 years and get around Hamilton County, get around Ohio a lot. Can you, just off the top of your head, tell me where, and I don't know a marketplace store from a superstore from any other kind of store. Can you tell me where some of these other marketplace stores have gone in recently, and with residential property and zone changes and TIFs and to the school district and any of those other issues that have come into play in other places?
Well, in terms of the other locations where they're currently operating, Liberty Township has a marketplace, which is at Cincinnati-Dayton Road and the Regional Highway. You're familiar with that part of town? Harrison, thank you. Independence, Amelia. There's one under construction currently at our project in Oakley, in Cincinnati,
Is that in the center?
Oakley Station, Center Cincinnati, correct. In terms of TIF or rezoning, I know the Oakley project was a full rezoning from the underlying zoning that was there. It was an old industrial property, actually, adjacent to a number of residential uses as well, and existing commercial and industrial. Went through a PUD process on that as well, similar to what we're going through with the township here, to create a planned development to accommodate the new commercial. We're going through, as I said, a similar process here. In fact, we'll be in front of Zoning Commission tomorrow night with the preliminary development plan for this project.
The Amelia store was a TIF as well.
Sorry?
The Amelia Marketplace store, that was funded through a TIF, and that was residential as well.
The Oakley store, the Oakley location also has actually two separate TIFs that were utilized in financing portions of that project as well.
When will assuming that everything is approved, when do you anticipate the opening of the marketplace store?
For Colerain?
Yeah, for Colerain.
We would anticipate that in early 2016.
And I think, is there a similar project right now out on Ohio Pike or Beachmont Avenue in Anderson? And that's kind of is it at the same point? And
it's not as far along as this project.
Okay, that was the other one that's had some press lately, and I'm not sure how that's affecting Forest Hills or anything, but if you had any comments on that.
That's not as far along as this one.
Okay.
With that, I'll turn it back over to Rita. She's going to talk more about some of the economics of the project.
Okay.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the store, the site, and with this new store, we wanted to focus on the, I'm not sure if this is, over here. Oh, there you go. Okay, so we'd like to focus on what the additional job opportunities and the additional investment that we're looking into the community. Right now, what we're proposing to do is to retain the existing jobs in the existing store, and I believe it's a 45,000 square foot store. 68,000 square foot store. And we're going to retain all those employees, and then we're going to hire about between 90 to 100 additional full-time equivalents. The number of employees that we hire is a function of the increase in sales. So the employees will hire more employees to the extent we increase the business of that store.
Your sales, what do you anticipate the percentage over and above what you at the present store?
The increase in sales? What's the sales increase? Yeah,
You put me on the spot. I'm not real sure, to be honest, the percentage.
Do you know what the sales are like on a weekly basis now at the Kroger?
I do, but I prefer that we can talk about that.
They're not going to tell you that, Jim.
I don't want you to know how much money they're making.
I got you.
So the proposed investment will also include the building construction and the furniture and fixture purchases and the whole site new building. With community support, we could commence the breaking ground in the development in as early as 2015 with an opening of 2016. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the capital investment. This project is challenged from a financial perspective. It's probably one of the most expensive projects, or one of the more expensive projects that we have done in the Cincinnati division. And I'll talk a little bit about how our capital approval process is and how each project stands on its own. But if we look at this project, because of the assemblage and because of the site and the challenges of the site, it's made this project very challenging from a financial perspective. So right now, as we have slotted, it's over a $25 million investment that we're making for this store. We talked a little bit about the employment and the number of full-time jobs. Okay, so let's talk about the capital approval process. I work with all the divisions. We have over 22 program marketing areas in over 35 states, and every project that is brought up to capital stands on its own, and it stands on its own based on, we have a formula that we put into our model for a new project that gets approved. I actually sit on the capital committee and see every project that goes up and help facilitate projects that have challenges from a financial perspective. So with any project that goes up, that's for the same amount of capital that a project in Texas, California, or Atlanta, with the same level of returns. And as part of the capital committee process, the first approval is the project approval. The project will get approved to do the first level of due diligence for the project to move forward, and then it goes back up through the project for what we call our final CA approval once all the project costs are facilitated. Any questions on the capital approval? Okay. So we talked about the project being challenged financially, and what we've been partnering with the township is to look at doing a TIF for this location. The TIF would be supported by a bond financing, and the bond financing, Kroger would purchase the bonds for the TIF and support that amount of the TIF revenue. And we look for the future increment of that revenue to be the increment of the new investment, and we would pay down the debt service of the bonds vis-a-vis the TIF. So that's our proposal, and we'd like to talk to the school board tonight to discuss the terms of the TIF and to see if there's any questions regarding supporting of that.
I have a question that I don't think you would be the one to answer. There's a property immediately north of there, the Stone Creek Town Center. I remember that was TIF'd some time ago. I was just curious if Mr. Rowan knows when that TIF matures or expires, whatever the right word is.
There's actually 2 TIFs right now on the books for the Stone Creek. We have the Best Buy portion and the remaining Stone Creek. One of those is coming off the books, I believe, in 16, which should roll back on the tax rolls in 17. The other one's a couple years later. I can give you specifics. In fact, I think I shared with Treasurer McDonough what some of those preliminary numbers may look like when that TIF rolls off. But I do have those calculations. I'd be glad to forward back over.
Just as a matter of information.
I know one of them's within the next 2 years, and then the other one, I think, follows a couple years later.
And one of them was 10 years at outset, and the other one,
I believe they were both 10-year TIFs. They were just staggered.
because of the construction of the and development of the properties. Yeah, that's kind of my recollection, too.
That's correct.
So what would you need from the board? Obviously, this is a good informational session. Not that we're going to have an answer tonight, but what exactly do you need from us?
What we'd like to do is have this TIF to be considered for approval at the next board meeting in January for final approval.
How many years are we talking?
We have worked out some details with the township. Right now, we're under discussions of what that would look like for the term of the TIF. There's different options of how we would structure the TIF.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I can't even think about voting for something in January if we don't have all the information. It's like, well, we're supposed to show up here in January and vote, and we're kind of dancing around what you're asking us. Like, how long are we talking? 10 years? Are we talking 25 years? And then I'm a little confused with the partnership. Is that the whole thing of the partnership? That's no different than you do for any other school district that you're not TIFing, that you're not taking tax dollars away. So I'm curious if that's it, is just the one school program. Because like I said, every school district benefits from that if they choose to participate in the program.
Two great questions, and let me address the first one with regard to the TIF and the term of the TIF. We are looking at a TIF, potentially about 15 years TIF. We are looking at the total value of the TIF and the net increase in the increment and what that would bring for the debt service to pay off the TIF. We would like to do it as on the shorter end and not have it extend out more than 20 or 30 year TIF, so we'd like to keep it a shorter term TIF for purposes of this project. Then the second question with regard to the partnership, we, over and above what we currently do, we look to have a business partnership with the school district as well.
And have we talked about that in detail at all? Do we know what that is going to look like?
We're working out those details. I think the Friday update had some more information on that piece of it, but we're looking at possibly a 10-year agreement of a business partnership. We also...
And you'll have that broken down, what that business partnership is and what those figures are? Is that what we'll have?
I don't know if you'll have that on January 5th.
I wasn't able to make that first meeting, and Dan was there, but I don't think we've been asked to take part in any of the other discussions.
I think you need this approval in January. We've talked about our organizational meeting on January 5th. Do you need the approval January 5th, or do you need it at our second meeting? So that would give you time, especially with the Christmas holiday coming up, to get this more finalized, and we could have it as an item for information on the 5th and approve it at our next meeting. Does that still meet your timeline?
That is what we discussed, yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, is there, I don't know if this is something that you could answer. My dad's cousin owned 3 of the IGAs, which are now out of business, one on Coleraine Avenue and one in Northside and one in Finneytown, and he made a fortune off of the grocery business. Sold out, and kind of when you guys were getting bigger in the township, and when Biggs opened and so forth. But is there any wiggle room where we could, I just guess it's a salesmanship in me, we have some athletic projects that we're considering, and I'd like to see something happen with both high schools. Is there any wiggle room to maybe increase just a little bit we're talking a $25 million project here for both Northwest and Coleraine High School. We're trying to do some stadium upgrades to our scoreboard. I don't see any reason why we might not even be able to put a sign on there, the Kroger scoreboard or something. But is there any way that there's any more wiggle room that we could get a little more from Kroger's to both of our high schools? Because one of the projects was going to be undertaken by the boosters, but I'd like to see it happen at both of the high schools, and I just don't think the other high school is going to be able to do it.
Right.
Is there, I'm talking probably in the $30,000 to $40,000 range.
Right, and so that's something that we would probably need to take up at our corporate without setting precedents.
But if you were to do that, I think, it's something that, it's a long TIF. At least the original proposal was. And as Dan and I one time were talking, the stores, I remember when you had the Colerain and Galbraith store, and then you had the Northgate store, and then the one across the street. And we were sort of saying by the time the TIF was up, you guys would have the super mega market center that sells used cars too, or something. And we were just wondering if there would ever be where we get to that point where the regular tax revenue came in. So is there any way you could go to your leadership team and ask them about that? These are message boards that we want for each of the high schools. Where future next game, the Colerain Cardinal graphic. Is it something you could look at and get back to us on?
Something we could definitely take up to corporate.
Okay. Okay. I know that would be a positive thing, I think, for all of us, because we represent different parts of the district. And I just don't want to see one high school get something that the other high school doesn't get. And so that's why I bring it up.
Is there any discussion, maybe, it's certainly something I know where the township has been involved in. It's done a very good job in the past of backfilling properties. When we've had a lot of expansion, a lot of new stores come to market. We've broken ground on Stone Creek and renovating Northgate Mall. A lot of those involve taking or relocating existing businesses and then creating the need to backfill the property. Is there any thought to what might be able to backfill a property of that size? I mean, it's one thing to backfill, 10,000 square foot place in an out parcel, let's say. It's another thing to backfill a 60,000 square foot building.
Well, interesting enough, it's a conversation we have with our economic development team on an ongoing basis, and we attend an annual conference where we're actually meeting with developers trying to give them a whole list of properties that we have in our inventory. And we do see a lot of movement. I know one thing Rita was going to mention, the existing Kroger facility is on lease, and then that lease expires, I think, within the next 2 years. And I think this new property, they're actually going to own. So that's going to be one major difference between the two properties. Frank and I brought Trustee Dieters with me here this evening as well, just to show our commitment to ongoing economic development efforts. As you drive the corridor, you can see the economic development growth that we're experiencing now. And with the Hobby Lobby now moving up across where the old H.H. Gray used to be, we're already in conversations on what could potentially backfill that space. Interestingly enough, when you get in that 50,000 square foot area, a lot of times it's easier because it's hard to find space that large. And we anticipate there's going to be further movement of current businesses wanting to leave and go into the existing Hobby Lobby facility there at Colerain Center, which would create another backfill opportunity. But we have already had some conversations with some developers about potentially coming in and backfilling that space if it becomes available. We will continue to market that. As soon as this project gets its green light, even though we're probably 15 to 18 months away from completion, we're going to already be marketing that property and trying to find an end user for that existing facility, either as it sits now or potentially as a demo and a rebuild. And that's a commitment you have from me, the trustees, as well as our economic development team, is trying to find opportunities to backfill as they come up.
Jim, will that affect Mitchell's and the other, what else is there, the UPS store and all of those that are right next to the Kroger's? Does that affect them, or will they stay there?
As far as a lease agreement, I'm not sure what terms of agreement that they're in. I know that with any development, you have the opportunity of potentially buying out a lease. So depending on what the end user would be and what they would like for that property, there's always the possibility of a relocation. Kind of like what we're doing right now with the existing facilities, relocating businesses to bring in a greater opportunity. And we would look to do the same thing. And while I'd love to get into some details as far as some of the businesses we're trying to target, I've got to kind of protect some of the development interest out there. But we really want to see the ongoing economic development. We need to increase revenues just like the school does, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to backfill that space as soon as possible.
Because my fear is then to get somebody in there, are they going to need a TIF as well? And that's going to just keep continuing where the school districts...
Yes. There's always that possibility. I wouldn't rule that out. I think what makes this project in particular a challenge is when we started these conversations months ago, trying to find a space within the township that would provide as much space as they need for the 125,000 square foot facility is challenging. We don't have a lot of properties like that. So because of the assemblage of properties and the contracts that they had to get in, causes this project to be much higher in cost, which is what drives the economic development incentive. But our goal is that, we'd like to see retail come in without those incentives. We have projects that are already incentivized south of Galbraith in the CRA district, and that's where we want to see some of our industrial growth occur. But we'd like to see some of that slow down on the retail side so that we can see some gains in our revenue base. If we continue to TIF everything, none of us are going to gain any revenue in that process.
Right.
Jim, there's I know in the past, and we certainly welcome the advanced conversation we're having with the township and the school board. It's a great thing. Is there a limit to the TIF where you would or would not need school board approval? I don't know if it's 15 years
Sure.
or 20 or 10 or what is that?
There is a 10-year, 75% TIF, but I'll tell you, about 3 years ago, Dr. Jackson, right after he came on board, and actually was with Superintendent Gladfelder, we started to have conversation that regardless of the size of the incentive, if we needed to try to incentivize something, we want to have a conversation with the school, bring the developer to the table and have a conversation. Even if it's not something that you would have to necessarily approve, we think it's important for the relationship to get the buy-in. And I would anticipate that even if a future tax incentive was needed that didn't need your approval, I'd like to see the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation so everybody knows what the impact is and see if there's a partnership that can be created between the developer and the school board as well. But right now, to answer your question, this project, we can only go forward without your approval for 10 years and 75%. And we can't make the money work at the level of investment necessary to assemble all those properties.
Very well. Like I said, we appreciate the beginnings of great conversations with the school board and the trustees, so we each know what each other's doing. Hopefully you are a little bit up to date on our possible school upgrades we might be doing next year and how that might affect the township also.
Absolutely.
So, working together, we can achieve great things.
I agree.
I know when I met with Kroger last week, we talked about 3 different possibilities. One that was close to a 30, I think one was close to a 25, and then one was a 15-year TIF. And I think we need a little direction from the board if we're going to have a TIF to come back to approve. Is the board leaning more towards a longer TIF or a shorter TIF? Part of the agreements would be that whatever our current revenue is on those properties, that it would be held harmless on that piece. On the longer TIFs, we could potentially get a little bit additional over what we're currently getting. With the shorter TIF, it would be just the same amount, but then that would go back on the tax rolls quicker. And I think the valuation of that property will nearly double once the Kroger property is up and running. So we need a little direction. We got Chris Finney here, our attorney, who's supposed to work with Kroger's attorneys to start trying to work out a TIF agreement, but we need a little bit of direction to see if the board, first of all, they're interested in moving forward with it, and two, what length would they prefer?
I can just speak for myself, and again, and I'm not saying go back to corporate and say we have to have a certain scoreboard at both schools. I just want to see on your end something over and above what any other school district gets, even when you're not asking for a TIF. So some type of partnership that's going to be beneficial to both high schools would be nice. And I would think the shorter TIF is what would be in the best interest of the school district, because like you said, this is obviously going to be a great project. It's going to probably, as you said, double. And who knows what school funding is going to be next year, let alone 15 years from now. So to take it out 30 years, I think that's way too much. That's just me.
Yeah, I'd like to see a shorter TIF too, not only from the school funding point of view, but just from the marketplace changing point of view. And I've lived here. I've only lived in the district about 15 years, which makes me an anomaly compared to a lot of other board members. But and I hear people say, I've heard people say, when I first moved here, I loved to go to Borders, which was at Northgate Mall, and that's where Kroger used to be. And Borders is gone. And that's mostly because of just a change in the way people buy books. Amazon is kind of taking over, and BarnesandNoble.com, and people don't go to bookstores like they did even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so there's always a lot of changes to the marketplace. And so I would be much more comfortable with a shorter-term commitment for that reason as well, not just on the school side, but on the, just how we do things is changing in this country at such a rapid pace.
I would certainly favor the shorter TIF also because I believe in the future and I believe that it is going to make an improvement to the community, and I certainly thank you for considering Colerain Township for your investment, and certainly would like to give direction to our negotiator, our attorney, to pursue the shorter TIF, and I don't know if Chris or Jim has a comment.
I mean, I could agree with what everybody said. I'm just curious on the sales end of it because I've done a little investigating, and I think when these marketplaces go in, their revenues go up about 30 to 40% on a weekly basis. So I think it's advantageous for you guys to come back and make an offer to us. What are you going to do? Like Pam said, you're going to give $5,000 to each school for the boosters. You know, you do the Kroger cards or whatever you give back. I mean, what else is there, or is there anything else?
Right, and so we're in discussions right now with that business partnership and what that looks like. So I think we can continue to develop that along with the term of the TIF to be presented at the next school board meeting.
Okay.
I think that the 15-year certainly would be where I would be headed if it was a one-man vote, a one-person vote, be politically correct here. I question, the increased traffic on Colerain. I mean, your stores are done right. I mean, everybody likes Kroger's, and one of your senior vice presidents was a member of my church, and he's retired now, but I know you're a first-class operation, and but again, it just seems like I work in healthcare and I deal with big pharma sometimes, and adding another $40,000 into the package is nothing in terms of what the whole scope is and for what tax revenues that we would be giving up. So that would be where I'd be coming from 15 years, and maybe just sweeten the pot a little bit if you could, and go to your decision makers on that. Thank you.
And so I guess the next step would be you will work out something with our attorneys. Will work together and bring back an item for information on the 5th, and if we met I guess is the third Monday in June or January is a holiday. I think we have a meeting the next night is a Tuesday.
We have one on the 20th, yes, the 5th and the 20th of
So
January.
would January 20th suit your purposes for, if we had a yes or no vote that day, that would suit your purposes and allow you to stay on your schedule?
Right, and that will get us to the next levels for our capital approval, yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again for your time, and thanks for the support of the township. Appreciate it.
Thank you for spending your evening with us. We'll take about a 1-minute break and allow everybody to get settled. And we'll move on to our next item, which is curriculum and instruction. Dr. Jackson.
Yes, the curriculum department has been working hard to update several handbooks and get them into one handbook called the Program of Studies. It's a pretty large handbook, and I have Mr. Holbrook here that's going to speak briefly about kind of what's in this handbook, and then you'll have the next few weeks to formulate any questions that you could send to us, and we'll bring it back for approval at the next meeting.
Good evening. What you have is 4 different handbooks that we've merged into one Northwest Program of Studies. In the past, we've had 2 freshman books, one from each campus, as well as 2 10 to 12 course of studies. We've taken all of that, being one district, and have merged that into one book. And so this will be the same thing that's distributed to parents and students at both high schools. And we feel like it's more efficient, it's clear, there's a lot of language in there, and I just quickly want to highlight some of the things that are a little different than what's been in the handbooks in the past. First, and I know it was mentioned earlier, last year there was an approved weighting change with grades that starts with this freshman class that's highlighted in this handbook. Furthermore, we have some language in there on the new College Credit Plus program that the state has come out with. We also have a lot of language in there on the new graduation requirements and the testing and the assessment piece that we discussed at our last board meeting. And we've placed some things on there in a college checklist type of thing. If you're a parent as a freshman, it's not too early to start looking at that, from funding options to course options, and tried to make that much clearer. We have reorganized every course code for every single course that we have, and we've done that by department so that I know that English courses are codes in the 2000s, and social studies courses are codes in the 4000s, et cetera, and that's helped us with some organizational programming internally, but also is sensible to parents that are looking at it. Butler Tech has had a lot of changes in the last year. A lot of their programming has changed names, and so not only doing that, but making certain that parents know what the former name of that course was so that students that want that option have the ability to do that, but trying to make that as clear as we possibly could, and we've become much more specific in some of the language with the Butler Tech courses. And finally, we think that, you know, we have two high schools, we have one district. Kids basically have the same options in both buildings. Where it becomes a little different is with the Career Tech programming in our Career Tech buildings. We know that students can go to either campus to take that, but certain programs are offered on one campus as opposed to another, and we tried to make that real clear. But that's up for information tonight, and you know, we're looking forward to your decision on the January 5th, at the January 5th board meeting. Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Our next item is community communications. If there's someone in the audience that has a question specific to something that was discussed this evening, please approach the podium. Seeing no one, we'll move on to board members' comments. Mr. Detzel.
I don't have any tonight, Dan.
Mr. Harlow.
As this is our last board meeting of 2014, I'd like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year.
Thank you, Michael. Pam?
And I probably should have said it while they were here, I do appreciate, I mean, as a board member that's been on this board 18 years now, it's kind of nice to finally have the township here engaging in conversations before something is done, rather than after something is done. So I certainly think that's a good step in building a strong relationship. I hope Craig is able to come back and do a little something for the both high schools. Would be nice. Other than that, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year as well. And that's it.
Thank you, Pam. Mr. Heater?
Dan, Larry, I am so confused on when you were leaving with the various times. Is this your last meeting you'll be sitting up here?
Yes.
Well, Larry, I want to tell you, and I think I speak on behalf of all five of us up here, before Amy takes the chair there where you've been sitting, you have helped us out 3 times? Is it 3? 2? And Larry, the thing about you that I appreciate the most, other than you're just a good human being, is that you always call it as you see it. You don't sugarcoat things. If it comes from you, you can take it to the bank. And I am going to do whatever I can under your name to get that treasurer's license renewed. So if we ever need you again, if you're 90 years old, we can call on Larry McDonough to come over here and help us out again. But Larry, Larry, thank you so much for all you've done, and you've been a real, I don't want want to say lifesaver, but you've certainly made a difference, and we're looking forward to Amy coming on board. And also just wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
I'd like to reiterate our thanks to Larry. You did a great job.
And I know we've discussed that, and I would certainly encourage you, for all the years you have invested in your treasurer's license, to go ahead and take whatever hours.
Yeah, right.
Get your hand off your face and sit up straight. I would certainly encourage you to renew that license. I think you could be a real benefit to some other districts that are in transitional times, and I think you've really done a great job. And all that said, December, it has been quite an interesting year to serve as your board president. I think the board has made tremendous strides forward, and we're all five talking to each other very regularly, and it looks like, we've gone a year. We've managed to, through a lot of work and a lot of ideas from a lot of different people, have got a little bit of a cash surplus, and we're able to actually consider making some upgrades to our buildings, and we've all in all had a lot of really good things happen, and I want to thank my fellow board members for putting me in the president's chair this year, and I've really enjoyed it. There's a lot of very rewarding things that come along with this type of work, and I'd like to also take this to thank you all for coming and wish everyone a Merry Christmas. We do have another board item, and that would be a motion to adjourn to executive session, and I might add, we may come back after executive session and take action.
Yes.
We may or may not take action, so please feel free to hang around. I'll let you introduce that item and seek a motion on it.
The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the motion to move into executive session as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? And we may or may not take action, so please stick around. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, I'll ask Chris to call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. So do not shut down your computers. Just leave them up, Chris. And I'd like to call this meeting back to order. In this particular case, Chris, would you call the roll to see if we're all here?
Mr. Detzel?
I'm here.
Mrs. Detzel? Here. Mr. Harlow?
I'm here.
Mr. Heather?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
I'm here. And I'll hand the meeting off to the superintendent.
Yes, we have a settlement agreement to consider, and Chris is working on getting the actual item placed into the agenda. But the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the settlement agreement and general release of claims and defenses as discussed in exec session and presented.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Did you want to make a comment?
No, sorry.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Chris, I would ask you to call for a vote.
Mr. Detzel?
Aye.
Mrs. Detzel? Aye. Mr. Harlow?
Aye.
Mr. Heather?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
No. Motion carries 4-1.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do you need anything else on that? Okay. Then I'll make a motion. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Yes, aye.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, please call for a vote.
Okay.
The motion carries 5-0. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.